There we go. Make sure it's all set. You're live, okay.
Watch it actually go down and get all out of forms, we could get in and do it, and go and do it. Up in the wall. Up in the wall, they're all, talents from the door.
Well, maybe, that could be.
Also put extra braces above the wires. Well, that's where they're at. That's where they're at. Oh, I could get credit for that again. All the old important people, actually, for the winter time. There's a heater in the excavator. And they didn't have an operator.
Yeah, I saw that.
He got mad. He caught me. He caught me there. Those are pretty nice. Some place in here. It was.
Actually, this is.
Yes, this is the cluster building.
Let's go. Well, it's 5 minutes after 7. We're missing one member of our board, but he's running a little late. Well, we'll admit him. Welcome to the September 8th Hamlin Planning Board. Okay, at this time, I'd like to explain that the exits are out the door on your left is your closest one, or out the door on your right all the way to the end of them. Okay, there's an ED on a wall if needed, and someone can work it. That being said, if anybody has a cell phone that they haven't turned off or put on do not disturb, please do it at this time so everybody gets their undivided attention given to either their concerns or their presentation. Okay. Roll call.
Linda Giroux. Here. Steve Law.
Here.
Dave Martin.
Here.
Chris Schleider.
Here.
James Nesbitt.
Here.
Steve Hitler.
Here.
Mark Hallerstein. Martin is absent as well.
Okay, until it appears. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the August 3rd, 2020 meeting minutes. I'm going to be asking for additions, deletions, or corrections. There is a correction, I believe. One that was brought to light by Jim here on my left, and it was the last motion of last month's meeting on asking for a public hearing due to time constraints, either in the approval process by Mark Hallerstein. I asked Cheryl to look at the minutes, being it was on Zoom. And in the narrative on the minutes, a vote was seconded, a vote was taken, and a roll was counted. So that is why it is on the agenda. If there's any other additions or deletions, at this time, someone bring it up.
Make a motion to approve minutes.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Linda Giroux. Yes. Dave Martin.
Yes.
Chris Schleider.
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Steve Law.
Which stands?
Steve Hitler.
Okay, due to the nature of that, we have a couple public hearings tonight. One will be the first item on the agenda. Then we have some conservation border development permits, and then we'll open it up towards the end on the last item for Helios and the solar facility and Redmond Road. So at this time, can you read us proof of publications for the public hearing, Cheryl?
Public hearing, commercial site plan for Vincent Robitelli at 8 Lake Road, East Fork. Application of Vincent Robitelli, owner of Vincent Robitelli, seeking commercial site plan approval to reopen and operate an existing marina located at 8 Lake Road, East Fork. Tax account 006.12-1-1. This is in the RCW zoning district, floodplain, and LWRP. Then we have a public hearing, commercial site plan and special use permit for Helios Energy New York LLC, 980 Redmond Road. Application of Helios Energy New York LLC, owner Eugene Dollard, seeking commercial site plan approval and special use permit for a 9.0 megawatt AC solar facility to be located at 980 Redmond Road. This is in the RDL district, tax account 012.02-1-3. I just grouped them together.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to open a public hearing, all right, for Mr. Rotelli at 8 Lake Road, East Fork. There's been a short environmental impact statement filled out. There's a business plan that was provided to the town, and a sketch plan. At this time, Mr. Rotelli, would you like to step up in front of the computer, the laptop, facing the public, and condense your spiel a little bit? And it's quite the plan.
My name is Vince Rotelli. I purchased Sandy Creek Marina back in November, and we were looking to reopen it and pretty much clean it up and kind of bring it back to where it once used to be. You know, make it a clean, safe, community-based marina, you know, for the local fishing and boating community. Too brief?
No, I didn't mean that brief. Maybe go over a little bit of your, what you're intending, number of slips.
Our number of
permit
slips.
process you're going through with the
Yep,
state,
okay.
as well as EPA with your tanks. And of course, the DEC is conduit, you use that through the EPA, place for the tanks and so forth.
So we applied for permits through the Army Corps of Engineers to start with, in order to get the proper clearance to pull out the old docks and replace them. The 2014 plan, we want to convert everything to floating docks, so we don't have a situation where they're underwater and can't be used. So we have to come up with some sort of bridge system in order to get you to your boat or get to a dock. So there was roughly about 54 docks out there, based off of some of the plans that we've seen. And in a two-phase process, we want to go through and work on our north and south shore, and then remove all the damaged stuff down the middle and convert everything to floating docks. We applied for a permit to move the gas tanks, to take them off of the road that's behind us and bring them over to our side of the property, which seems to make sense. I mean, it's our marina, why should you have our gas tanks next to you, you know? And then the rest of it is pretty much just shoring up the property, cleaning up the property, maintaining the weeds, and just, you know, running a clean regular business. We did get feedback from the United States, or the Army Corps of Engineers. They received our permit. They don't think there should be a problem as long as we're not doing any major changes or dredging or anything like that. We did get word from the DEC that they have no regulation over our property unless we're going to dredge or change our landscape. I think that about sums it up.
Okay, there's a continuing process, so it will be required with the town through the conservation corridor and some other permitting. All right, and I'm not sure I was talking about that. At this time, I'll open it up to comments, okay, from the public. Please stand up, state your name, and so we can get it on the record. Who's first?
I'll go. Hey Vince,
Hey, hi. Nice to meet you.
Brad Blaine. I've talked to you plenty of times, but never actually met you. I own 12 Lake Road, which is, at one time was part of this property. And my property actually goes over and includes land on the opposite side of the inlet, which the boats will have to go through to get to the marina. So my concern is liability. If boats are coming in, if they collide in the inlet, or if they were to hit my property, you know, what is insurance-wise? Am I covered, or am I going to be additional insured on your policy? What kind of protection do I have?
I have no answer for that, but it's definitely something to look into. And I'll also check the Army Corps of Engineers and see where the jurisdictions lie, you know, as far as that goes. It's an area that I've never, you know, had to
Yeah, I
work
mean,
with
it's a weird
before, so.
situation because this property is always owned by
Right.
the same person. So, I mean, we've talked before, and then you knew it was a concern. So I just want to make sure that it's
Sure.
addressed.
Or, just for the record, that inlet is really not that much different than what we have at the yacht club. Safe boating practices demand that you sound your horns as you're going into a restricted inlet, so that anybody that's coming back upstream or coming into the inlet has been given notice, and they are to back down, okay, until the exiting boat makes it into the mainstream. It's a U.S. navigation law, okay? And people are supposed to be able to take a safe boating course now, and it's brought up in the tutorial, okay? Just for general.
No, that's fine. The road is safe, it's great, but,
Comes from,
you know,
there's at least two captains.
you know, I'm always thinking of the worst situation, somebody comes flying in there and runs into my brick wall or whatever.
No flag.
So,
Okay.
you never,
5 miles an hour, no way.
Yeah.
Especially when you come by my house.
yeah, you know better.
So, anyone else would like to say something? Pat, Mr. Quincy?
Yeah, my name is Pat Valenzi. I live at 16 Lake Road East Fork, just east of the river there. My property backs up to that. As far as talking about the channel and stuff, and this is kind of a minor thing, but as boaters go through that channel, someone's going to have to maintain those trees that overhang the channel. Because there's been a lot of guys that go in there and their rods are in their rod holders, and those branches pull them out and they lose them in the channel. So I don't know if you talk about liability. I don't know what, but it's going to be something that's going to come up from the boaters. Who's going to maintain that foliage there? And also from the sides, because as that stuff grows, it's going to reduce
Encroaching
the
over the-
access to
yeah.
the channel. So just something to think
Sure.
about down the road.
Yep.
That's all. I think it's going to be great. I'm happy somebody bought the marina, is going to fix it up. And it's certainly been an eyesore. And I think everybody along that private road there is going to be happy that it's going to be back in working order. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Pat Willen, on 21 Ross Cove, Preston. Are you planning down the line after you get all the docks done? Are you planning to do anything with the building as far as restaurant, tackle shop,
Maybe boat repairs, anything standard with the marine industry. No concessions, no cafe, nothing like that, no.
and is the public going to be able to access your guest house?
Yes. Yep.
Anybody else? JP?
Just something I noticed on looking over the secret form as we got it this evening. There's one strange thing about it, that it looks like the page 1 and 2 are of the same version of the most present secret form, and page 3 is a different form. So we have a repetition of questions 14, 15, 16, 17 on both page 2 and 3. And so there's something out on this secret form. Secondly, it indicates on number 16 that the project is the project located in a 100-year floodplain, and the answer is no. I think that's
Yes.
clearly, this is yes, so we should fix that up. The plans that were included in the application are a little rudimentary. It's just, I don't know, there's no elevation showed on them. There's no dimensions. We don't show, the application calls for an entry gate. There will be, the boaters can operate it. There's no indication of that or details of that. There's no lighting. There's no pavement details. There's no indication of where the pedestrian access to the, from the parking area to the slips are gonna be. The dumpster location is called out as being a fenced area up next to Lake Road, East Fork, which I think you could probably find a better area to screen that. But the plans are just, they're a little rudimentary.
It's the we had about 2 weeks to get together and turn it in. So there wasn't much time to shop around to get something to work with and get them drawn and stamped and everything. So they follow along the lines basically of the survey plan with just a little more detail in the beginning of an outline. So I did call Cheryl to see if there's a chance anyone could review them before we got here tonight to see if there's any specific changes or additional information you'd like on there. But with a short turnaround time, that's all we can do.
We just, I think for the record, you'll want to have more detail.
Sure.
And I think we'll see that as permits get generated, and you find out what elevations might be at the top of your new break wall. I don't know if there's gonna be any filling or anything else like that.
Yeah, we're still working on all of it.
Okay, and so that'll be part of a package that we're gonna have an approval process over in the future based on our LWRP rates. Keith, do you have something to add, questions?
I agree with JP's concerns. I mean, they haven't so much as submitted a site plan as they have a sketch plan. From a seeker point of view, it's arguable that this is a type 2 action because they're repairing what was already there. Unless the board is of a mind to say that it is substantially different than what was there originally. In that case, it would be unlisted, but it's the board's pleasure to either type 2 or unlisted, depending on how you see it.
Well, one of the things about having break walls and docks and marinas as well as in private residence is keeping something in good repair. It's part of, it's a line item permit process that you have with both the Army Corps and state. So one could argue, okay, that it would be a type 2, depending on the amount of work that needs to be done. All right. Or it could be argued that it's unlisted. We need to see the scope based on the site plan. But as far as reopening the business on the sketch plan portion, all right? Because I think when we go to a site plan, we're probably gonna need another hearing of some sort, okay? If there's anything substantial, okay? Substantially different from what was there. Not just the plane and metric view, looking straight down at it, but looking at it in 3 dimensions, okay? Just so that you're aware. I'm not saying it's
Sure, no, I
going
get
to
it.
go, but it's the way it must be. Cheryl, do you have anything to add or things you'd like to see other than what JP and both Keith did?
No, I agree with both of them. Okay. Production access and the other access.
That good?
No, please come before us again with more detail. So I don't have any comments now.
Because we do a regulation over the permitting process through conservation. Steve Law.
No, I think it's a good thing. I wish them the best of luck.
Yeah, got a good plan here. Not too many people come through with a plan like that, so tip my hat to you for that.
Being a neighbor, I don't know if I should recuse myself because we have a bunch of properties. But being a good neighbor, and we have a guardrail that's installed there by the previous owner. Okay. Which has a function of demarking the property, as well as keeping people from the marina walking over on private property. Okay. In the wintertime, during heavy snowfall and westerly winds, it acts like a snow fence. In your submittal, okay, and what should be on your site plan is you reference putting a snow fence closer on your property during the winter months to prevent that from happening.
Right, you talked about up by a corner, there's some of the worst area, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we talked about it, but completely forgot.
Right. Well, I'm just saying that might be part and parcel of the site plan. And that affects the immediate residents going down through there, okay? There's used to be 2 or 3 of us that actually plowed that because that's the closest hydrant, okay? I've plowed it, Pat, your new neighbors plowed it, Charlie and I have plowed it over the course of the years, and it can be tough.
Sure.
okay? But it's just something to look at in placement, so that we have emergency access for all your neighbors, okay? That's all I have to say. Someone finds any fault with it, because I'm a neighbor and also German, it's just something to bring up.
Okay, I got a couple of things, won't beat you up too bad.
No, go ahead, I can take it.
Okay.
Careful.
Okay, in your book, you said it's at 54 docks. So the question is, they're all trailers, both size boats. Are you gonna store trailers on site or are they gonna be off site? So you're gonna have, what you're saying is you have the potential of having 54 trailers in that parking lot.
I don't know if I could say you have a couple of 54 in that parking lot, because there's a certain portion of the property I think is actually owned by New York State. There's an easement there, but I don't know how much that easement allows you to use that.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying, is
Yeah.
you got 54 docks, you got the potential of
Right.
54 boats, you got the potential of 54 trailers, unless you have the trailers removed from site. You know, so the question is, are the trailers gonna stay on site or gonna be removed from site? And I think that's something you're gonna have to work out, or your fishermen won't have a place to park their cars.
Judging by the previous map, he had parking.
Yeah, that's why we're bringing it up tonight.
Yeah, which didn't seem to make sense since most of it's a hill.
Okay,
That area couldn't get parking, so.
second thing is on the gasoline, is this gonna be self-flow, or are you gonna have an attendant there?
You have to have an attendant.
You're gonna have an
The
attendant?
fire marshal will have to clear a self-serve, which I don't think would ever happen.
Yeah, okay, and are you gonna have diesel fuel?
No.
Okay, that's a very narrow channel going in, and the question is, are you gonna put a maximum on the size of boat?
Yeah, I don't think you take anything more than a 20 to 30 footer anyways. and not
Yeah,
the wide-
well, you can't take anything with a
Yeah.
12-foot beam.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, and, so you should, you know, when customers come in, make sure that they know that there's a certain size of boat.
Sure.
Next thing, and this is just me, noise. There's some pretty high performance boats. A lot of guys with twin screw, big motors and open exhaust. And I'm sure you're gonna have a few of them.
Always
Or
do.
some of them in there, yeah. And so noise and neighbors might not go along too well. I don't know what you can do about it, but
I don't
a
either.
lot of them, you have the exhaust systems that you can have them open or close. So they dump underwater, it quiets them right down, get out in the lake and open them up.
Sure.
So be aware of that, because I think that's got.
We
potential.
crossed that bridge over at the other place recently.
Yeah, I'll bet you that.
Yeah, we had, guy wanted to bring in a cigarette boat and said, come on down, you know, we'll see what happens. And talked to everybody at the, site and worked out good, you know, and he
Yeah.
basically idled till he got to the channel and off he went.
You can have hours of operation also that you post, for other than for fishing, okay? There's noise ordinances, and, we had them in there in the past. We would ask those guys not to fire up before
Sure.
7 o'clock.
We asked the same thing, you know, you come in late at night and go out.
You're fishing usually, the charter captains that have a row, all the boats were backed in there, so when they fired up, you weren't megaphoning on the neighbors, all right? Trailers, was first come, first serve, okay? Most of the boats over 26 were cradle boats, and that's where your spots would go, and they'd have to be covered, so.
And the last thing I got is dredging of that channel. Probably not gonna have, how much water you got there now?
I know I haven't been down there since water dropped.
Okay.
I mean, you know, we're experiencing the same thing up at Port Bay. We had to pull a boat out, a couple days ago because our most inland channel, inland slip, we were just about touching the ground.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's, you know, learning what's happening with our water levels plays a big deal.
that's a Medina sandstone, and it flakes off, and every time it rains, you're getting it in, there's not a lot, there's no flow. You're gonna get any flow, so eventually you're gonna have to attend to that to maintain that dry. But I'll get to that later. Okay.
Yeah, my main thing is to find out if we can go forward with this, you know, idea of reopening the marina, or if it's something that is not gonna be allowed to do. I'm willing to throw a certain amount of money into it, but until I know, you know, how viable an idea, if it's something that, is not gonna be allowed to happen, you know, I mean, obviously that changes everything. So, I'm still waiting to find out. I know last time we discussed whether zoning had changed in that area, and I do believe, under the zoning areas we're covered, it's more about, I think, what, is required from us to open up again. I think that's what I'm trying to find out, get a feel for it. Did I do this, or did I just buy a, swamp?
There was always a drop dead date, where all the boats had to be out. Okay. And the marina was dug out a long time ago by a pass rails. Nobody really brought up lighting.
I had mentioned.
Yeah, a little bit. Shielded lighting, okay. Last floodlight that went in there lit up the whole neighborhood, which, it's okay, as long as, they keep the crime level down and everything else. But that'll be a concern as your site plan comes. We might want to look at some, colorimetrics, or somebody to test what's going to go in there is not going to cause. As you buy fixtures, you put up there, they'll give you a photometric table if you ask for it, based on a certain amount of heights. All right, and you can put that with your submit. So, all right.
Steve.
Yeah, I live across the street from it, and I'm really excited to see, so excited to see that you come in. It sounds like you're doing a class operation,
Trying.
which is terrific. I just hope that we don't scare the hell out of you, scare you off.
Nope. So far, so good.
Well, I guess at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. And after being heard what has been said here, Keith,
Yes.
a recommendation for seeker.
The site is still a little bit up in the air. I mean, the applicant has just said, building on Jim's comment, that he's unclear as to his rights. I mean, it would appear that his parking lot is built on state land, but he's part of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's an easement on there.
Okay, well, and your comments were that you weren't clear about whether the easement gives you the rights to do that.
Correct.
That's certainly something that needs to be nailed down.
That was historically, though, that's where everything was stored. I'm just,
Doesn't make it legal,
Right,
it just
right,
means that's what they're doing. So there's that, and I don't know if we covered this, oftentimes marinas put boats in storage, or we can have on-site storage, or they could be racked up high, or is there really anything like that?
Nope, single floor trailer storage only.
It's really board's pleasure on seeker as to whether you see this to be just a breakdown of things in place as opposed to a significant alteration. I mean, if you replace one dock that's fixed with one dock that's a floater, I consider that a repair. But if you have 10 docks and you wind up with 20, I would consider that an expansion, which would be different. So it's
you're
really
not
how you see
proposing
it.
to expand from what was in the past.
Got
Go ahead, Steve.
Do you feel comfortable with the list of items that you have to deal with?
Yeah.
If you know what they are. I would suggest that you review it with Cheryl, the list of items that we spoke about today, just to make sure that there's no surprises for you. That's my recommendation to you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, are we just doing a sketch plan this evening? Is that it?
Well, it's a public hearing because we want to hear public comments up front that might have a change to a site plan or the significance of the project.
Okay.
Okay, so it's basically we're gonna be looking at it again, okay, as things generate based on comments, concerns, and DEC or record concerns.
In that case, we don't have to deal with secret.
Secret next month.
Yes.
All right.
Because the full, and besides, you're not supposed to do secret before you see the whole shebang anyway.
Is that, what's your fall schedule? Is that,
As far as,
well,
According to this, it's
for us, we need to see better drawings.
Sure.
That, to defend your neighbors. And, if we make you come back next month, is it gonna mess you up outside of
I don't, you know what?
Tonight.
Yeah, I don't have a time schedule at the moment. You know, I mean, I'd love to say I want to be open, fully running by spring, but they also said the, Army Corps of Engineers could be 90 days before they should be paid for. So until I get everything in order and approvals, I really can't start construction or buying materials. Lumber is out 90 days, 120 days for the amount of stuff that we need. We're looking at alternatives constantly, you know, so, no, I mean, month, 2 months, I can't go forward until we all agree on it.
I understand. Actually, sometimes it's good to have a public hearing ahead of time so that there's no surprises through the process and you have to re-engineer things. You have a property survey map that needs to probably be updated, showing easements and all that other stuff.
So we're done. I think I submitted that. I think I submitted the most recent one.
Yeah, just my opinion, of course.
Right.
What we have right now is this survey map, which does not contain all the site improvements. It's a survey, it's not a
Just
site
the
plan.
survey.
And then we have this bare bones sketch that's attached to what appears to be more of a business plan, and this is not a site plan.
No.
I mean, I can't look at this and see exactly where things are, and like, is the parking lot on state land? I'm guessing. I shouldn't have to guess.
Sure. You know, I think I overstepped my bounds by trying to get it ready in 2 weeks from the last one to the time it was turned in.
I think you need an engineer.
Sure.
A professional engineer and a PE who knows how to do site plans and know the whole thing. And so with that, you could get it through with one shot.
Sure.
Rather than keep coming back.
I would assume until I have stamped plans turned into, we're not going anywhere anyways. That's pretty much their own
From an
ready.
engineer, not a surveyor.
Right.
I have nothing to it.
Okay.
Another question came
Public
up.
hearing's closed.
Is it? Oh, sorry.
Write a letter to Cheryl. You'll get him understand that. No, Pat, what do you have?
No. I would
We
just,
got one,
Vince made the comment that, you know, he's got a plan for 54 bolts, 54 slips. From the past owner, I've seen plans for many more bolts. So if Vince gets this going and he has an opportunity to put in some more slips, is he gonna be allowed to? Which I don't have a problem with. I'm just looking down the road, maybe some of the other residents do. But in a way, I hate to see him get stuck with exactly 54 bolts. I don't know what the board, you know, how the board would deal with that.
Well, it becomes a special use permit. Am I correct? Okay.
We got to modify it.
Okay, if the special use permit changes, okay, then you have to come back
Okay,
and renegotiate, okay? If he was to build a bigger storage facility with rack storage or whatever, like you see it with the islands, you have to come back. If it's a modification of the permit, and it should be in the language of the special permit as a stipulation. So, okay.
thank you.
Make a motion to consult on that.
I'd entertain a motion to hold this open for a little bit more information, but stating that we have had a public hearing and we're closing public hearing. I did.
You already did.
But nobody voted on it. Okay, but go ahead.
All right,
Motion to close the public hearing, to poll the votes, and then we'll ask for a motion to continue it.
Did we already do the vote for public hearing, closure?
No, I just said it was closed, so I'm just going to poll the votes. Second, and poll the votes. Need a second.
I'll second.
Lou,
Yes.
Steve Martin,
Yes.
Chris Snyder,
Yes.
Steve Metzger.
Yes.
Steve Block.
Yes.
Steve Pittman.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to hold open the application of Vincent Rovatelli for the operation of the marina located at 8 Lake Road, East Fork.
Second that.
Poll the votes, push it.
Lou,
Yes.
Steve Martin, Chris Snyder,
Yes.
Steve Metzger.
Yes.
Steve Block.
Yes.
Steve Pittman.
Yes.
Very good. Good luck.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
you mention the date and the time, are we gonna hold open for 30 days?
Let's leave it open.
I wouldn't put a time limit so we can get their
Okay.
proper information up. Yeah, I would, no less than 60, you know, so I can get together with people, work on a plan and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to squeeze it.
Yeah.
I mean, to get the things you need.
Also, if you could fix the environmental assessment form,
Sure.
as the engineer indicated, those pages don't work.
Yeah, they came over kind of doubled up, like
It
1
looks
through
like,
17 and then 17 through something on the next page.
yeah, whatever the issue is, we
Old
won't.
form, combined with a new form. That's what.
And I will talk to you probably tomorrow or Thursday. We'll make the list. What do you need?
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everybody's interest. Okay, next item on the agenda, 5708 West Watoma Beach Road for Sean Logger, Conservation Corridor Development Plan. Is there somebody here?
Did not see him right here. I did not see him in the parking lot. This is his third time now. Remember, we
Yeah.
denied him with prejudice, without prejudice last month? He wanted to come back in. So, would you let me take a minute to see if he is out there?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Looking for a 25-hour day.
I hear you. Join the club.
It's on the outside. See, it's a Kleenex, is it?
I saw my sister's pictures of it. Oh, the yellow ones? The trim green, shortly after they were used on people.
Yeah.
I hope the guy's here.
You can go just pick them up. We should.
Excuse me?
Is that another service we offer?
Just got an Uber.
No, but as soon as you said something, we'll give you his address, you pick him up next time. It's 5708 West Watoma Beach.
She's dated June 17th. I think we gave him enough time.
It's a good meeting.
Or we can all just sit here and wait till it's convenient for him.
The original was February.
No, Cheryl?
No, I want to have a car. He's not here.
Can I have a motion for dismissing this?
To deny it without prejudice would be the,
We'll do it
I
again.
thought we've already done that once.
We did.
what it means is that you would have to reapply and pay his money.
Which is what he did.
Okay.
So he's done it twice. Oh, well, then he'll have to do it a third time, I guess.
Okay, motion to deny.
Without prejudice.
I'll second it.
Okay, who was first? Okay, thank you. Okay, Linda DeRue,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Chris Schleider,
Yeah.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Steve Block,
Yes.
Steve Pittman.
Yes.
real quick, the reason we're voting to deny without prejudice is because we haven't heard the merits of the application.
Right.
Of course, it doesn't mean we have to keep it on the agenda, so that's me. Thank you.
Okay, 7314 Sandy Shore Drive, Mr. Scott Copeland, Conservation Quarter Development Committee, somebody here. All righty, it's your turn, Scott. You wanna,
First time through this, I turn the podium.
well, you can stand a little closer to us and turn around and look at the,
You're on YouTube now.
I'm on YouTube. Where's the camera?
right, you want to,
Oh, it's right there. Got it. Okay. I'm Scott Copeland, property owner of 7314 Sandy Shore Drive. I'm in the process of building a 10 by 14 foot shed at the southeast corner of the property. The building permit was issued, and about 2 months ago, it was reminded that there was a CCD permit that was required, being that it was within 200 feet. I had to chuckle a bit because 200 feet from the wetlands, it would actually be on first sandbar. But it's set so that the permit's been applied for and seeking I guess, a variance to that 200 feet from the wetlands, which is just on the south side of Sandy Shore Drive.
This is not unlike his neighbor who came in last month
Yeah,
for the same thing.
yeah, Mr. Dorf.
Yeah, and his shed is actually, it's 41 feet from the road, plus the road. He's pretty close to 200 feet, and also the wetland also kind of goes under the road, like they paved the road over the wetland also, so.
well, that's when you create a wetland buffer after it's been there for 85 years.
Right.
Teenage,
It's my understanding that you're gonna raise the shed up.
Yes, it is raised about almost 30 inches from the ground. We built that, if you see the Mother Nature's efforts like it was 2 years ago, it could still come across the road and be 6 inches high, and the floor of the shed is still being protected. So hopefully it doesn't get any worse than it was a couple of years back.
Okay, so you are aware of the perils of.
All too familiar, unfortunately, yes.
But it is the type of structure he wants to build, it's all consistent with the neighborhood, so there's really no issue.
JP,
No,
okay,
No concerns detected.
Cheryl.
No concerns, I've been working with him and his neighbor for quite a while on this. No concerns.
Very good. Any comments from the board? With that being said, someone like to make a motion for seeker and a motion for approval.
Make a motion then for, Scott Copeland, 7314 Sandy Shore Drive for an unlisted type 2 negative deck.
A second.
Just like two is fine.
Linda Drew,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Chris Snyder,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yeah.
Steve Pittner.
Yes.
Okay, motion for approval.
Motion for approval for the Conservation Corridor Development Permit for Scott Copeland, 7314 Sandy Shore Drive. Owner Scott Copeland seeking Conservation Development Permit to build a shed less than 200 feet from the determined federal and state wetland to the south of his property. Town Code 520-24B, parentheses 2, parentheses C, which states around all remaining wetlands, water bodies, and streams as shown on the official town Hamlin wetlands map. The boundaries shall be 200 feet from those areas as mapped. This is an SR zone of LWRP. Tax account 007.09-1-13. Following documents have been submitted for review, letter of intent, conservation development permit application, photo of the wetland area. The LWRP is consistent with the character of the neighborhood.
I'll second.
Linda Drew,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Okay.
Chris
Yes.
Snyder,
Yeah.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yeah.
Steve Pittner.
Yes.
All right, very good. Thanks for your patience.
thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Take care.
Next item on the agenda is the address is 6992 Benedict Beach Road. Yu Chao Chen.
You almost got it.
Good
job.
Yu Chao?
Good job, Chen.
Okay, very good. And you're representing give us the flavor of the site plan.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Bob Hatch, with Schultz Associates Engineers and Land Surveyors. We represent, Ms. Chen, in this matter. She purchased this lot, back in the 90s, thinking that it was an approved lot, and she was hoping to build a summer house out there. And those plans she was hoping to do this past year. But come to find out that the site plan approval had lapsed. The original site plan was done in 1981. So she has hired us to present an amended site plan for her to be able to, I don't think she's gonna build here. I think she's probably gonna end up selling the lot. But she wants to make it buildable lot, so that she can sell it as a buildable lot, which she thought she was doing back in 1990. Sorry, 2009. As part of the application, when we were going through it, there's gonna be a need for at least 2 variances, one for the minimum lot size and one for the lot width. Lot size is about 7 cents an acre, and the lot width is about 93 feet. So, it's not a tiny lot, but it's not a huge one either, so. So basically, we've come up with a site plan that pretty much mirrors the original site plan, with the exception that we've moved the house forward away from the lake to get it outside of the coastal erosion hazard areas. It still will need a conservation development permit because we're within 200 feet of the lake. So because we are going to be going to zoning as well, I just wanted to present it to you folks first. We are on the zoning agenda for the next meeting, so I anticipate needing to come back here for final approval. But wanted to get in front of you guys and then get any comments or anything that we need to discuss before we go for final.
Okay, even at approval of this, it still has a lifespan.
Correct.
So we're gonna have to put house.
Yep.
And she is aware that we're in a process of having a sanitary sewer district.
Correct, and that's part of the reasoning into doing this, and as you'll see, we are not showing the septic system on there. Part of the proposal would be to tie into the sanitary once it becomes available. So, we're hoping it's next year.
JP,
Yeah, that was the only thing that jumped out at me is, that they're aware that there's no sewer there yet. And likely will not be till, this time next year until everything's ready.
Keith?
If you approve this, there should be a condition upon the approval that the sewer system get constructed as per what JP has discussed. Now, we're anticipating it's going to happen, but bad things have been known to happen. Just saying.
Is, even if they were to be able to put a septic in or a treatment facility, when a municipally owned and maintained system goes back within 150 feet of the property, they have to hook up no matter what they do. That's state law. But you're right, it's, they, even if it had a different type of system, they had to hook up as that goes back.
And part of the concern is if the current owner sells the lot to the next guy should be well aware of the fact that it's not an approved lot until such time as the sewer goes in.
And that's definitely a note we put on play.
Yeah, I would, because I know there's sometimes people buy lots and weren't told that there's a sewer coming through. Okay, with that beautiful garden they purchased a house on, or, what have you gets destroyed.
Well, I think the fact that their future sewer line enhances the value.
Oh, absolutely.
And if she has any intentions of selling, it's just a matter of her keeping her calendar right to where she knows that we're starting a sewer line, now's a good time to put it up for sale.
Before the taxes go
Yeah,
up.
no, yeah, before she.
So we're gonna need a motion to,
Can I add something?
yeah, sure.
You mentioned that they would probably need a conservation development permit.
Yes.
Unless it's in a floodplain, which I don't think it is.
No, it's
then,
outside.
It's 100 feet from Lakeland Trail.
Oh, it's 100 feet,
and
okay.
Not 200. So I.
Yeah, we're 162. Okay.
It's 200 from a wetland, but only 100 from the edge of Lake Ontario.
Okay.
Unless it's in a floodplain.
Isn't Lake Ontario considered a wetland as well?
No,
It's not? Okay.
Is there a wetland on the other side of anything?
No, I don't think
no,
so.
but we look at that.
Right.
Farther down Benedict Beach,
Right.
as far as it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, this location. Good catch, thanks.
Thank you.
Very good. Need to schedule a public hearing for this.
It's got a variance.
Is variances first?
Yeah.
You're already on board for the variances, right?
Correct. We're on the next meeting, which I think is the 17th or 21st. Yeah.
So it's gonna be ready to come to us.
November.
If we, as long as we get our variances, we'll be ready to come back.
November 2nd?
Is that what you and the client want? Want it in there to get it? Okay.
That works for us.
I need a motion. Somebody please.
What are we motioning, Chris? We're not taking any action.
We're gonna have a public hearing, though. We're gonna put it on the agenda for next month.
For next or for November?
November.
November.
He's going to zoning on the 21st of this month, and he'll be at zoning next month.
For the public hearing.
October
For
19th.
their public
For their
hearing.
public hearing.
Yeah,
So that
Yeah,
date's in November.
November.
I'll make a motion for the application of Yu Chao Chen, owner Yu Chao Chen seeking preliminary finals. Single lot subdivision for 6992 Benedict Beach Road for public hearing on November 2nd.
Second.
Second.
Second on the second. All those, please.
Linda Drew,
Yes.
Dave Martin.
Yes.
Chris Schleider,
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Steve Law.
Yep.
Steve Chapman.
Very good.
Great, thank you very much.
We're willing away. And our next item on the agenda, Tom and Wendy Monks at 550 Chase Road.
Let me go out and get. Again, please.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay, okay, you come up front here and, just state your name and.
Hello, my name is Anthony Quintera. I'm the project engineer with Mahar Engineering. Can you hear me just fine?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm the project engineer with Mahar Engineering for the subdivision plan at 550 Chase Road in Hilton, New York.
Want to put the map up on the board?
Yes.
Just for grins, if you can get it up there. I know it's pretty heavy postage for it. And if you could stand in front of the laptop so the camera picks you up, and you can give us for.
Mind if I leave my materials down below there?
Yeah.
Chair.
Yeah. All right, so like I said, I'm the project engineer with Mahar Engineering for the subdivision at 550 Chase Road in Hilton, New York. Specifically, what we are proposing to do to the parent parcel is split it into two new parcels, namely Lot 1, located further to the west, and Lot 2, located to the east. Both sizes of lots 1 and 2 will ultimately be greater than the 2-acre minimum requirements for what the parent parcel is currently zoned at, which is the very low residential district, or the RVL zoning district, with its 2-acre requirement. For Lot 1, the area to the right of way of Chase Road will ultimately be 12.888 acres, and Lot 2 will be 8.702 acres. The existing conditions for the lot is namely that it's made up of vacant farmland. Located to the northwest is Brush Creek, just by that northern property line, as well as federal wetlands designated as PF01A. What we are proposing for Lot 1 is ultimately going to be passed along from the current owners, Tom and Wendy Monks, to their son, Corey Monks, and his wife, Paige Monks, for the sake of ownership and change. The dimensional presentation of Lot 2 currently is shown such that it would not be approved for building. There's just 15 feet of frontage at Chase Road that would provide access to Lot 2. And at that point, that was a comment that had been brought up by your town engineer. And at that point, I'd like to turn it over to the planning board members for any questions or concerns that they may have.
JP, you had some comments, I believe.
Yeah, the first one is, the front setback line is shown going to the center line of the road. That should be from the right-of-way line.
Yes,
So
and
that line will move back a little bit. There is just this narrow sort of flag lot being formed with just this 15-foot access that's on the order of about 500 feet long with a very tight turn. Really makes a driveway there not really buildable, especially if you had to get an emergency vehicle back there or something along those lines. So I don't know if they'd want to consider modifying that to make that a little more accessible if this lot's ever going to be developed. Otherwise, it could be.
Not to interrupt you, JP, but obviously I did the survey on this. And that 15-foot access is just so they would have frontage and trees. Greenwells work the property, they come in from behind anyways, they don't have to come in that way. I think it was just the sake of ease, of just giving them that 15-foot not to be developed. I'm sure if that was gonna happen on the road, because the kids are building on that one lot, I'm sure they'd be willing to increase that so they could potentially drive back there, but that's not even the reason that they
Have some frontage. Okay. But a funny thing, that we should probably at some point go over, not related to this project so much as there's a definition of flag lot in the town of Hamlin Code. It just says it's a piece of property with a narrow access. There's no minimum width, there's no maximum length of the flagpole. A lot of other townships have more details on what a flag lot can look like.
Could you submit that for a zoning workshop?
Sure.
Some definite
Yeah,
language?
if you're making some changes,
They meet on usually a monthly basis, and we've made significant changes in the past that make sense based on what other towns do and keep recommendations.
I agree with what you just said.
Absolutely.
And I looked at this thing.
That's why I let you guys sit next to
Well, thank you. Yes, that's very convenient. That was the one thing that bothered me about this design. I mean, I can't imagine someone wants to, basically do a right angle turn on a residential driveway, what do they do, stop lights and intersect? It doesn't work. I don't see how a fire engine makes that turn, and I don't know what the required radius is, but I don't think that's it.
Can't come closer.
Yeah, I mean, a parking space is 10 feet wide, so they added 5 feet and you're supposed to, yeah, I don't think so.
This is purely semantical at this time, you know, based
We have a
on
minimum
probably
driveway
what you've said.
12 feet, and you have to have bump outs, because it's gonna be over 500 foot.
If they ever meant to build it.
Yeah.
I would, just saying, if there was ever a chance it's gonna be built on, we could.
Depending on the
change
length
it now, but
and the configuration of a flag lot and driveway, based on recommendations from the fire department or fire marshal, we'd increase that or change that as point of fact. And you'd be one to bring that up also at this time. But to add some clarity, let's consider that in the future. So thank you. It's, you know, it's a sidebar conversation, but it does pertain to this, the way this is going to run out.
If I may add to that, the idea is that when you create a separate lot, is that eventually it's gonna be owned by somebody else. And if you're gonna fix the problem, you fix it now and don't create the second lot. That's my, thank you.
And then, my final comment is there's 2 conservation overlay districts. One that is 100 foot from essentially the 100-year flood line. So instead of the limit of just showing that limit of the zone A flood zone, we should show the conservation overlay district that's 100 feet off of that 100-year flood line. And there's also a second one that's, there are wetlands associated with Brush Creek. It's not clear where those boundaries are. It appears they're on both sides of Brush Creek, but there's no boundary drawn on here. And then there's a 200-foot setback for that, for the conservation overlay. And just if we show those overlay districts, we'll make sure we're not building anything in those. That's all I have.
Chris, I think we're being too generous with the 15 foot.
No, I think that needs to be increased. I think you need to talk to the fire department, find out what the minimum turning rate is on a fire apparatus. Because you're gonna have, that's 413 feet before you hit the corner. It's gonna be 500-foot driveway, there's gonna be bump outs needed in it. 15 foot does not cut it.
That's why I
Not
brought it
12
up, you know.
foot wide driveway.
In each case, we have to go to the fire marshal and look at that for that very same reason.
I think it's just,
So,
I got a minimum 20
well, I can
feet.
appreciate the fact that Greenwell's leasing it, or running, working the land, but that's a separate building lot. If somebody wants to build on that.
If you're right on the edge of making a zombie.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. You know,
Well, it's not approved for building, so it's gonna have to come back in front of you guys anyways for a
it would
site.
have to come back, but there wouldn't be any, you'd have to increase it someplace.
Why not fix it now before you approve the separation? Like he said, why would you even authorize the separation without making it so it could be using it for, in the future versus making somebody come back and spend more money just for increasing it, say 5 foot for the right of way.
Well, I can
this
tell you,
is
the parents are very adamant about making sure that it stays in the ag district, and that's why it's at 8 acres.
This has to come back to us in the public.
But they could grab that off the north-south one.
I would like some comments back from the fire marshal, or recommendations, from JP Bassett, on past practice, for this to come back to us in approvable form. Okay. But still, I'd like to have some zoning direction that's more concise in the future. Okay, so the applicant comes in here and knows that if it becomes a buildable lot, it has to have certain access requirements. Okay, they might have to be able to put it someplace else on the lot, I don't know. Okay. But that's an engineering concern. So, do we want to schedule this for a public hearing? Does this need any zoning? Is it meet some minimum criteria?
It's This application doesn't need a public
Pardon
hearing.
me?
This application doesn't require a public hearing.
Okay. Do you want to leave this open or continue it for next month when we can get some more direction?
That's what I would prefer. Yeah.
I think what I'm doing is looking at the two corners.
Yeah.
The straight line will probably remain 15 foot, but if we made this, the two corners wider, bottom out another 10 foot.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I would talk to the fire marshal and find out what they need for turn radius for the truck.
No, there's two.
Yeah, the one that's the same wheel axle, but then you have
It's one of the commissioners.
This year.
He's not involved with that.
We'll only present one, then we only have to do some.
Yes, you do. Okay.
This is not a racing. Yes.
Thank you.
This has to move forward, not backwards, right? Okay, so do we need to have a motion to get this straightened out? And how should it be worded?
Well, you can schedule a public hearing, but they should also be given direction as to what it is you expect on the plans in terms of revisions.
I was incorrect, only a property merged.
There was a misunderstanding as to which application we were referring to.
Public hearing.
All right. So there needs to be a public hearing. In the meantime, we need to have some direction from the fire marshal based on recommendations, okay, given to a person for this application. He's got modifications and lines for drawing on a plan. So would this be doable within the next calendar month?
Yes, and at that point, if I could provide a little bit of input with regard to the access. I can't speak for the owners, Tom and Wendy Monks, but, or the future owners of Lot 1, but the access to Lot 2 could be solved through a private access easement given by Lot 1 to Lot 2.
Yeah. It's just, makes it muddier when two property owners have when there's no need to have an easement on a property because you could slide that over a little ways. At this point, I don't know why they would start that way.
Well, anyways, he needs to have a public hearing anyways.
Yeah.
So there's some time to iron out the little difficulties that we might be having here. Okay, so, that being said, can I get a motion, to put this on the agenda with the following ideas being, that we're gonna iron out the access requirements, and we're gonna benchmark with the fire marshal. And that information is gonna be shared with the applicant and the application.
I'll make a motion for the application Tom and Wendy Monks, owner Tom and Wendy Monks, seeking a property split, property located 550 Chase Road, to go to public hearing on October 5th with the stipulation that we have information from the fire marshal as to the requirements for the width necessary of the easement in order to get emergency apparatus to the second lot.
Second?
Linda Drew,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Chris Schreider,
Yes?
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yes.
Steve Pittman.
Okay, that takes care of the two items on the agenda that's here, and you have some direction and homework. Okay, so, very good. Thank you for your patience.
Because we can't do anything on the other applications, so that's.
No, we have the site plan. So, you've got your sketch plan, action orders, and we'll look at the site plan. They have to go there, there's just no change in time. As long as you get stuff done. All right? Very good. We have your map, and good luck, and thanks for the application. Okay, next item on the agenda is 215 North Hamlin Road for Darren Maxwell. Okay, seeking a merge. Okay, that's you, Rich?
It's me.
Okay. I know you had a lot to do tonight, but we hadn't seen you in a while, and
Yeah,
we wanted to give you a chance to rest for a little bit.
well, thank you. Appreciate that.
So,
This property is located on the south side of North Hamlin Road. It's, people are pretty familiar with the area. It's got that wicked bend down there, Town Line Road. Darren is, we've been working with Darren for the last couple of years. He initially came in and combined two lots. There's a house lot and there's a vacant lot immediately to the west of him that he picked up. We combined those two roughly 2 years ago. Well, the opportunity for him came up to buy the next lot to the west of him, which I think is roughly around 9 acres, and they have an outbuilding on it. He sees that opportunity, he bought it, and came back to me to see if I can't merge that with the rest of his property. And I know he can't go any further because Greenwell's own the rest. So I think he's gonna be tapped out after this, if we can, this is proof what's in it.
do you have a building on this lot, or, oh, metal buildings on this?
Yeah, that's on the lot he just bought.
And that ownership just changed.
It did recently, yeah, he's got
Yes.
it under his name now. Yep. I wanted him to do that before I could do the merge, because
Yeah.
I can't do it without, it's illegal if I did any of it. So he just bought it this summer.
JP,
No concern.
this does not need a public hearing?
It does not. We're-
Okay, so seeker and emotions all we need?
I believe this is an unlisted action, so if you believe there's no impact, then unlisted negative declaration.
I'll make a motion for application Darrell Maxwell, for 215 North Hamlin Road for a property merge to be a type, unlisted negative declaration under seeker.
All those, please?
Linda Drew? Yes. Dave Martin?
Yes.
Rich Slider?
Yes.
James Nestor?
Yes.
Steve Law?
Yes.
Steve Pittman?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the application of Darren Maxwell, or Darren Maxwell seeking property merge of two parcels into one parcel for 215 North Hamlin Road, following tax account number 008.04-001-011.1 and 008.04-001-013. These are in the RVL zoning district. The following documents have been submitted for review: letter of intent, merge application, deed proof, and site plan.
Second. All those, please, show.
Linda Drew?
Yes.
Dave Martin?
Yes.
Rich Slider?
Yes?
James Nestor?
Yes.
Steve Law?
Yes.
Steve Pittman?
Yes.
So good.
Thank you. I'm waiting on the county surveyor's review and then I'll kick it out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh.
Some people that live back there, they end up going in there.
Curtis. Curtis.
Is he out there?
Mine?
Can you sign them?
Yes, please.
Next item on the agenda is for Curtis Golderman at 1224 Lake Road, Westport. Curtis,
Hello,
how we doing?
good, how are you guys?
You want to step in front of the laptop so that we get you on the, there you are, man. In all your glory.
Here I am.
Give us a lowdown on what's going on here.
Looking to apply for my FFL. I'm gonna do like a, kind of a small firearms business or whatever outside of my household. Nothing extravagant, something mostly for friends and local people, kind of word of mouth, things like that. No signs, no big advertisements, things like that. Just something kind of on the side, because I have a full-time busy job as it is, so.
You're gonna be selling firearms out of the house. Is there gonna be a range?
No,
So there'll be no discharge of firearms on the property.
nothing as far as for the sake of the business.
Okay. So you sell a firearm and you sell the ammunition. Somebody has, you know, they get their permit, you hold on to it until what time it gets cleared.
Yeah, based on all the FFL regulations, everything that needs to be done
Right.
for pistols, rifles, shotguns, calling for the NICS background checks and everything needs to be done. Fill out the proper paperwork once they get the okay. Very similar to what kind of crack shot gun shop is, except for he's got signs and stuff. I'm not planning on doing any of that.
So you'd be able to direct them to a licensed range.
Absolutely.
And they'd have to sign some kind of waiver. And, you know, there's no discharge on your property and all the other stuff, because that is one of the concerns that you're gonna have from many of your neighbors and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently a pistol instructor for the USCCA and an NRA pistol instructor.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different entity. I haven't done too much teaching and stuff like that. I went and got the certifications, but I'm not using it as far as anything to do with the business at all. This strict business as far as having the availability to order stuff, have it brought to me so that I can do the paperwork, whatever else. It's close by. It's instead of having to drive to Greece or downtown or whatever else, other than the regulations that they have to do to go downtown to get your stuff on your permit for your pistol.
Right. Still gotta go to clerk.
Right, for your pistol stuff, not for long guns.
Right.
And then otherwise they would have it, you know, shipped or whatever else. I'm not planning on keeping a lot of inventory on site anyway. It'd be pretty much, like I said, an access point.
Most rural gun shops do the very same thing. They order offline, off their local supplier, and when it comes in, they notify the person.
Yeah, and the FFL I'm applying for is actually, there's like 9 or 10 different.
Yes, there's categories.
Yeah, so I'm planning on going for the 7. That is manufacturing. That's only so that you can take an upper and a lower to get like, so I'm just gonna talk as far as if you buy pieces together to manufacture and put them together, that's considered manufacturing. So that's what that entails. I'm not planning on building, machining, planning on doing anything like that. It's just I'm planning on doing the FFL 7. It just gives you a lot more.
So it's no assembly or anything else like that?
It is or it is not.
It is or it isn't?
So 7 allows you to do the most of everything. So it's a lot easier just to apply for that and have that. Like I said, I'm not planning on doing it. It's just that I know that some people like, such as the standard AR rifle style that everybody's very familiar with. If you take an upper from one company and a lower from another company, you put them together, sometimes people call it manufacturing, and you're putting parts together and you're building it from all together so they consider that manufacturing. You don't have to build your own parts, you don't have to machine your own parts, but actually building the rifle to put it together as one. That sometimes constitutes as manufacturing. So that just covers me in those.
You're putting a scope on it, or you're doing all kinds of different things, but not making it fully automatic.
Well, fully automatic is a whole different ballgame.
Right, absolutely. Well, you know, you're gonna have to have a public hearing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so these questions are gonna be raised, okay? Especially in today's world and with the antis versus.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay.
Everything has to be New York compliant.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But the average person does not understand what this gentleman has to go go through
Oh, yeah.
in order to make it compliant and safe for the neighborhood and everything else. It's a big nut to crack.
Especially in today's environment, yeah.
And,
In New York.
and that's what, if you're at a public hearing and you're gonna do that, you have to reassure the public, okay? That what you're doing is right within the law,
Mhm.
and it's not something that's glorified by a TV program.
Correct.
Okay?
Right.
Or down in Tennessee, or, you know, you're gonna be doing any, multi-state approvals for carry?
So that deals with a whole different thing as far as instructor classes. So, I can certainly point people in a certain direction. That is not what my entity is. My entity is pretty much to, if somebody wanted to have the new Glock 19 pistol, they can have it either ordered and sent to me. If they bought it off of online stuff, sent to me, I can do the proper paperwork so it can be sent over. I'm not planning on doing anything as far as instructing or teaching with this entity. This entity is strictly for purchasing or taking possession of and transferring out or transferring in. So nothing to do with,
You
nothing to
can
do
take
with,
something on consignment from, let's say, a death or a change in.
correct, I was just gonna say that. You could try to say my dad or whatever else, or my uncle passed away, he's got a pistol on hand, we're trying to get it on our permits, but you need to turn it into the law enforcement, which, cross your fingers, or you can say, Curtis, can you come pick this up? I can come pick it up, put it on consignment, I can immediately pick it up and walk away with it, with the FFL. I can go any place in the country
It's a
and pick it
safe
up.
way to go, otherwise you have to call a law enforcement officer, and if he's nice, he won't charge you for having something that isn't registered.
Well, that, no way they store
Like
things.
I just bought something off an auction, and I would have to be able to have that transferred to you
Correct,
in order to be able to possess it.
correct.
Well, you have somewhat of a business plan that you put together.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to make it all neon lights and crazy hours. It's pretty much gonna be by appointment only. You're gonna call me, text me, say, hey, I got this. So, like I said, I work a full-time job in healthcare, so.
Well, I think as a result of public hearing and stuff, there'll be some local demands for things just like that, saying that it'll be by appointment only,
Mhm.
okay? Under your special conditions and stipulations. So Cheryl, you're flagging.
I do have something I do want us to talk about.
Can I just, one thing as far as, I know you said as far as stipulations, as far as, by appointment only. I think the only thing that I would potentially have to do to begin with is to put in some standard hours so that I need to have an on-site visit. And then once that on-site visit happens, I can then make, a request to turn on, change it to appointment only. That's one thing I'm only following. There's like a thing called an FFL.com where you can follow you through it, so.
Initial contact.
Correct. Once initial contact's over, then I can turn around and like negate all standard hours, because they usually give a phone call anyway. But they like it better when you have a set standard hour, so it may be like 6 to 8 at night, Monday, Wednesday, Friday to start with, and that will be negated once I get that initial visit, on-site visit. And I've heard in the past that somebody else has just recently done this. It was literally done via Zoom, basically with all this virus stuff going on. You literally, I don't know, walk around and show your house or whatever else, so.
I'm aware of most of the hoops. A good friend of mine has a business in another location.
Cool.
So Cheryl, go ahead.
Okay, I might talk to Mr. and Mrs. Boltman, and both come in my office. He already has a very large berm in the backyard built, and she says he's already had the sheriffs out there, and he would like to allegedly, use all the words, have an instructor have classes on his property to shoot the gun, learn how to shoot guns. Just want to let you know that's what I've been told. And I've seen the berm. It's a very large berm in the backyard. So this is obviously a separate entity from what he's going to have in the home.
I originally asked as far as if it was, only because the instructor that I usually worked for who trained me said, hey, can you just find out from your local government what needs to be done from an outside person to come in and do that. Again, this would be a separate, like, I would allow them to use my property. Yes, I have a berm on there, but again, nothing related to the business and anything like that. It was strictly for my use and my use only.
Well, and the result of a conflict with a neighbor over you shooting your personal weapon. So you wanted to make things safe.
So correct. So the first time I was actually already planning on doing that, and then the neighbor that was behind me, he brought to my attention or whatever else, had the law enforcement come over like a week later. And he just asked me, he says, hey, I just would prefer if you put a bigger berm up. And I told law enforcement that I was already in the works of doing that, waiting for the guy to show up to do it. So that was already in the plan ahead of time before he even did anything. So only for that sake.
Are we aware of any discharge of firearms ordinance locally?
500 feet from a dwelling, that's the only thing that needs to be allowed. And I was well within all of that. And I can have written permission from either one of my neighbors that I can shoot pretty much off my back deck if I wanted to, and they don't care.
Any Sunday around here right now, you can hear gunfire all day.
Well, I understand, but you have to be able to respond to a residential concern.
Yep.
Properly.
Yep, and I've messaged both of them saying, hey, I'm gonna go out and shoot, gonna zero my rifle or whatever else, even being within the well range of 500 feet from my dwelling, and they were like, rock on, cool. So both of my neighbors, the only one that would potentially cause a problem is the guy behind me, but the business on site has nothing to do with the range. That's personal use or friends, family, or whatever else. So that's not like buy a gun and get a free range day. I'm not doing that.
The neighbors don't always stay the same, so somebody else could move in and not.
But as long as I'm 500 feet from a dwelling, per law, and that's the same thing the cop told me. They said as long as you're 500 feet from a dwelling, and a dwelling is any place where a person sleeps. It does not mean that someone can put a barn out back and say, those are where my chickens are at. That's a dwelling. It needs to be a place where humans sleep. So you can put a back shed off the back within 200 feet from my property, and it doesn't constitute as far as it being illegal. It has to be 500 feet from a dwelling. That's directly from Monroe County Sheriff that day. I asked her, and I'm like, that was originally a question as far as what constitutes as far as a dwelling, and she says, free folk sleep there. Okay, so as long as I'm 500 feet, which I know exactly where I'm from, I have about 110 yards I can shoot within regulation. So even if a neighbor complains, it's technically within the law, and there's really nothing they can, other than complain and whatever else and cause problems. Law enforcement comes out and says, you're within your legal rights. But again, that's a whole different entity than.
A lot of that's written into DC's laws and.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, a couple things. First, NCON has their own police. We're not here to do that job for them. As far as home occupations are concerned, home occupations have to occur indoors. So there is no, the whole idea behind the home occupation is it doesn't change the character of the home. You shouldn't be able to drive by and figure out if something's going on because it's all inside. So if there's an argument about what kind of shooting is happening on the site, whether it's business or personal, if it turns out to be business, that would be a violation.
Right. And that's why that was the first question I asked as part of the business. Is there no fire and weapons and the property?
No, there's not going to be some potential customer going, hey, I want to go out and try this weapon, the firearm. That's not what I'm there for.
So you assemble a rifle.
Or just buy one offline.
Okay. For yourself is different than what if someone orders one and they have you put a different rail, pickaninny rail on it, or they do something else by another supplier. Okay, you know, put a shock pad on it, put a sling, all that stuff. You're not going to go out and shoot that on your range, are you?
If it's them doing it or me doing it?
If you do it, okay, you're not going to go zero that rifle in for that guy.
No, I'm not planning on it.
No, you're not going to, right? It's the question.
Right. No,
Okay.
that's not the purpose of the range.
Right. The purpose of the range is for you.
For me, for my zeroing, for my practice and my skills. Which is already
Don't
there.
get this wrong. Part of this growing is what's gonna.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not growing. There's no hats and hamburgers here, but it's growing.
The steak would sound better, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So, this is a home occupation. If it fits the requirement, it's a special use permit, we have to put it up for public hearing. Okay? There's gonna be a lot of pros and cons, okay? And it's gonna generate probably some some conditions, and I beg everybody to think about that. What has to happen, based on his business plan, and based on what he's gonna tell you, or what we're gonna glean from the law through the FFL and then Con and everybody else. This still is a country, and I know you're championing at the bit, but it's not a public hearing, okay? But if you, I know if you have some legitimate concerns because your property goes by or whatever, write them down and read them, okay? Or be here for the public hearing, okay?
You can ask me now, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, to be honest with you.
Yes, yeah,
Don't matter
I
to
don't know,
me.
is there anything for the board?
I'm open to whatever else. I'm here to answer questions, and if someone has a concern and I don't know it, I'll figure it out and bring it back to
First,
you.
I got a couple of simple questions.
Yeah, sure.
First of all, what door is the customer's gonna go in? You know, your front door, your garage door, your outbuilding? Or where are you gonna,
Yeah, so,
you know, I read where you
Yeah, so-
don't want it.
yeah, I don't really like disclosing anything as far as where I'm gonna maintain. Like I said, I'm not planning on keeping a very large, inventory on site anyway, just for security and safety reasons. Obviously, they'll all be locked in a safe of some kind. That being said, to be honest with you, if somebody's coming in and they come to my front door, if my garage door is open and then they come in that way because it's one of my really good friends and that's who's doing it, it's like two main houses to come in. I'm not gonna have a separate door just for business purposes. I have one over on the in-law apartment that has never really been open at all, and there's really not much of anything. For some reason, Tom Tanner has it there. No idea why it's there. I'd rather have it all closed off, but that's besides.
Well, what I'm getting at is, length of your driveway is about 150 feet.
Then I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
I don't really measure it.
Okay, and more than one car at a time between your own private vehicles and the customers, and concerned about night lights because of the length of your driveway.
If I have more than one person there,
Turnaround?
huge.
You got huge turnaround.
Yeah, and I actually have a light off the front of my garage, off the front of my house, and the front of my pole barn. There are always motion lights on.
Because that will probably be one of the concerns by the general.
If I have more than one-
Are you gonna have a spotlight that light up the 150 foot?
If I have more than one customer there at one time, I'll probably be very impressed, to be honest with you. I'm gonna turn around, and definitely for security and safety reasons, especially now with everything that we're dealing with, it would be pretty much simple to turn around and say, I have an appointment from 6 to 6:30, you can come at 6:45. Strictly for those reasons, just because I don't want everybody traipsing through my house. I have two big dogs that I don't need to sit there and be calling them off of, as far as because they wanna smell you and find out what kind of animals you have at your house and try to get into your car. So, and I have kids at the house. So, for safety and security reasons, it's definitely gonna be like I said, it's not planning on having, if I have one customer a week, it probably will be, like I said, it's gonna be very kind of a low-key kind of thing. It's just a difference between enjoying this and having the ability to do this and.
Because the night lights are always, you know, your neighbor's got, well, I can't see my big screen TV now because I got this.
It's nice, 'cause we have like 5 acres out there, so my closest neighbor has a big hedgerow anyway, and my other neighbor, Moleskis, they're only there like half the time anyway, because they're always down in Carolina, so.
Thinking the other across the road, Uncle Buzz.
They don't care, they love us. I'm not too worried about them. We're always waving each other, we're
Put your
mowing.
light on the ring. They sell the ring spotlights now, and everything else like that. It doesn't do anything in your house, but you can always monitor it.
I have several cameras and stuff available, and
And that's a good thing to know, to
Yeah.
tell. That makes people.
And I have a question for Keith. Yes, sir. Between now and next month, could you give me a definition of dwelling? As far as we know, it's where you sleep, but there's nothing in, I don't think there's anything in the law that says anything about the owner. I don't think you can discharge a firearm off your back porch and be within 500 foot of a dwelling just because it's fun. I'm not talking defense if somebody breaks in or something like that, but I think the way I read that, a dwelling is a dwelling depending on who.
providing it's not yours.
No, if it's yours, it's still a dwelling.
Right, but it's also your property, so you are allowed to do it off of your own property. It's somebody else's dwelling.
I'm stumbling with that, so I'll see you next
Well,
month.
we can have that discussion. But the ultimate arbiter of that would be the Con office.
That's right, yeah.
because in the same regards as that, the law enforcement actually said that I was allowed to discharge off of my, back of my driveway, even if I was within 500 feet from both parties, if I had like permission from them. So if I have permission from them, I'm not allowed to shoot. If I'm allowed to have permission from myself to shoot, then everything should be copacetic. And that was in the words of Monroe County Sheriff, so.
No, you're right, because the property I hunt, I had to get permission on both sides, to hunt a little strip of trees, like, within, as long as I have permission on
From
both
both
sides.
sides.
I was allowed to shoot
Okay.
within a closer range.
Yeah, that's something you gotta be very careful with firearms and stuff, because they'll come down on you like a ton of bricks.
Okay.
So this just needs a motion for public hearing.
Schedule public hearing.
I'll make a motion for the special use permit for Curtis Goldman, 1224 Lake Road, West Fork, for public hearing on October 5th.
Second.
Call the vote, please.
Linda Baloo,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Chris Snyder,
Yes.
Jim Sensick,
Yes.
Steve Block,
Yep.
Steve Hittner.
Yes.
Stand by, be prepared.
Bring it, let's go.
Just come, like I said, when you're including like hours of operation, things like that, you know, just try and think of all the questions that people are gonna have for you to.
Security and everything else like that. All the things that need to happen. And well, I thought that we had, it was
All right, all set, guys?
Yep.
Cool, thank you.
For the other one. Okay, we have a public hearing.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is for Helios facility.
You're streaming online, so you wanna set it up, so.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, if you wanna turn it around, you might be able to get an angle on it.
I think I'm good here.
Okay.
You guys have all seen this one already, so.
Is there any changes?
No.
Okay. As part of the original request, we asked to become lead agency. We sent out to the interested parties based on a recommendation. How many mail-outs did we send?
We sent out five mail-outs.
And there was the correct mapping and all of those stuff was sent out.
Everything was sent out.
Application.
Mhm.
Did we get any comments back?
We got a comment, I think, from Monroe County DOT. They
Okay,
wanted to be made aware of.
okay. They have
changes.
permitting, they're gonna require a highway cut from that, driveway permit from that.
All they mentioned is that they wanted to keep abreast of any changes in the site plan.
Okay. That is a Monroe County road there, not a state highway anymore? Or is it ours?
I had some correspondence with Monroe County, actually. We're working with them on getting a permit. I guess it switched to Monroe County in around 2007.
They did a flop on part of it. Like the north end is county road. Or what was, it was state and then they
It
flipped
was state, and then
Now this part's county and the north end, I believe, is, or the south end is still state, like when you go down.
okay, we're in there.
31.
The county had some concerns, just, I'm trying to refresh my memory. About the bridge,
The bridge, the
And
road
the dip,
itself, the entrance.
site distances and all that other stuff, and, Mr. Jans, have you been working with them on any of those comments?
For Monroe County?
Yeah.
Yes, we're in the process of getting with them.
Okay, and what were some of their concerns that you deal with?
I don't recall seeing anything related to site distance, mostly just making some improvements to the proposed driveway, including a new culvert, some flare down sections, and just some other standard notes and details on the plans for the driveway permit.
Before I open it up for any public comment, Jake, please.
The only piece I recall was there was a discussion about subdividing the property, that it was needed due to the size of the property. We have on the second sheet here, the lease boundary, and
The concerns we didn't have was we didn't care about the lease arrangements, and we were not going to form a legal subdivision.
no,
Am I
I think it was the opposite. I think they subdivision report.
My recollection is that was a nice service issue, not a challenge. And if they don't want the subdivision, then we're not gonna force them to do the subdivision.
Okay. All right, with that being said, if everybody's on the same page, now we're brought up to speed, you think?
I thought it was a requirement for these community solar projects, that there was a maximum megawatt per site. And this exceeded, and I want to say 5 megawatts. 5 megawatts, yes. And it exceeded that, so that it needed to spill on, it needed to be subdivided on 2 separate properties. It wouldn't fit the certain requirements. That's my recollection.
So is this public hearing for subdivision, or is this a public hearing for approval?
Well, do we have a plat map? So we're not proposing a subdivision. We're just proposing 2 separate lease boundaries. I guess the applicant has worked out some kind of arrangement with the assessor on the how that's going to be taxed, and that'll be worked out after the permits issued, before building permits are applied for.
That has nothing to do with us.
Okay. What I'm gonna do right now is open a public hearing for the public comment if you have it. All right, so let's consider the public hearing open for this. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak? If so, stand up, state your name.
Yeah, I'm Ron Verslowski. My wife and I own the property to the south of that. I understand from being approached by solar projects and stuff that it increases property taxes on the property. And then they pick those increases up. But what I'm wondering if that is property is assessed for more, is that gonna affect or increase my property taxes and stuff on my farm?
Boy, that's a question for the assessor, I suppose.
Well, you're still being in the agricultural district.
Yeah.
So my understanding from others that I've seen is they're gonna lose the ag exemption on this and have to pay full blown taxes. But if you're still in the ag district doing agricultural activities, I don't think that would.
Because
I wouldn't think it would
It's
be.
gonna be taxed as 2 separate.
Well,
These would be still in the agricultural district where this would go to commercial.
And I don't believe there's any drainage issues because that farm's higher than mine. The water comes from there over on the line.
But it's not gonna affect.
And I don't believe there's any. If the ditches run towards me, I don't think there's gonna be any more water than there is now.
Well, right, I was told that. All right.
I mean, that was the only thing I was concerned about was it's gonna increase the taxes on my property. I mean, they can do what they want with it, you know.
I'm not gonna speak out of turn because I'm not the assessor. But the only effect on anybody's taxes that you have is just like GP says, the ag exemption is lost for that property owner. And like Dave and I were talking, you go back 5 years, there's a penalty on it. That's all I know about it. that's all the comments. Anybody at town board have any comments been brought to your attention? We have a new part-time assessor at this time.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, he's here more, I think he's like once a week.
Yeah. And, have you had contact with them?
I typically don't handle the contact with the assessor or even the town board in handling pilot. My main contact is with you guys for the,
I know the last
First,
conversation I had with Dan was there wasn't gonna be a change as far as making it two separate tax numbers or a hyphenated tax number.
Right.
That's
And there wouldn't be a pilot.
right. That was the
so I
last.
missed, typically there's a pilot, that's why I said pilot. I understand the town has a different arrangement.
Yeah. I think I'm safe to say I can close the public hearing at this time. Do we need a motion?
A motion. What's the cost of the project?
A project this size, you're probably looking at the tens of millions of dollars. I don't have the exact number in front of me. It fluctuates based on, where they're sourcing panels. Sometimes there's tariffs associated with them if they're like certain Asian countries like China.
I believe the new assessor is a figure.
They will provide one to the assessor, yes.
Yes.
You gotta have a bond.
There's a decommissioning bond, but that factors in the cost of removing the array. It just treats it really as rubbish. There's no salvage value associated with that.
Just curious, how are you getting around the NYSERDA requirement for the size?
There's been some back and forth communication with NYSERDA since that was initially raised by the planning board. I guess they're going to allow just the hyphenated subdivision, not subdivision, the hyphenated tax parcel separation with just two lease areas. There doesn't necessarily need to be.
So they're separate but not separate?
Yeah.
Did you get that in writing from NYSERDA? Is it in writing somewhere documented?
I don't care. Not trying to get down, but it's their issue. We're not their enforcer.
Yeah, if they can't get, a separate SBL number, NYSERDA won't give them the money, so it's all part of that application.
There's that, and the planning board is not in the business of guaranteeing SBL numbers to anybody. It's not our job. That falls on the assessor.
Let me ask you a brand new question.
Okay.
I asked this about 2 years ago. Wasn't satisfied with the answer. Once you get the power to the road, then it becomes National Grid's responsibility to get it to the transformers up here on the Roosevelt Highway.
Correct.
The people of the community have to see something of what's going on. Are you gonna put new poles in? You're gonna use the existing poles? Can the existing poles take that quantity of current? We have a farmer that's got a business on both sides of the road with a lot of parking lot, a lot of traffic on both sides of the road. And the answer I got, I think it was in 2018 now, but the answer I got a couple of years ago is we don't have anything to do with that once it gets to the road. Well, the town has something to do with it because we have to be able to tell the property owners which side of the road, are there gonna be new poles and stuff?
The lines are on the western side of the road. They need to have three-phase power lines to actually accept the power. So that's in place there. As part of this project, we're proposing, I have your count because sometimes it changes. We're proposing 6 for each, so 12 total, but that will be on our property. There's no new. Let's double check.
On the driveway coming in.
So you're telling me that the
point of interconnection is going to be on the western side of the road. So there's no new poles.
So you're saying the pre-existing poles, the poles up now are sufficient to handle this load?
Yes, and that's on the
transformers. Are we gonna add new poles? What are we gonna do?
There's money that's going to probably be paid for the Caesar as part of the Caesar application, that goes towards, substation improvements if they're required.
So we
That's part of
don't
the-
know if substations are required yet?
No,
Yeah,
it's not gonna be a new substation,
work.
it's going to be improvements to the existing Hamlin substation that's getting the power fed to. So it's an existing substation. They have a limited amount of capacity, so.
The existing wires have a limited amount of capacity.
Correct, and that was all completed as part of the, Caesar application. So if any improvements needed to be done, that would have been flagged by, grid and would have been brought to the applicant's attention. As far as I know, there's no major work that needs to be done on the existing wires.
There's no major work on the existing wires.
It's part of their application. They had to apply to the utility.
Yeah.
To tell them we want to put 8 megawatts in this. They usually give an approval with conditions to that approval of pay us cash to make this improvement, pay us cash to make whatever.
I guess the concern is, let me step back for a second, is we just put a water main down in different areas on that road, okay? On the east and, on the west side, okay? Now, these people have been subjected to a disturbance, the farmers have been subjected to trenches across their access ways, going in and out of the thing. And are they going to be impacted once again if they're gonna need to put more poles or change the configuration that might have an effect on not only a resident, okay, or some of our agribusinessmen, all right? And that's the kind of answer that we'd be looking for as a town. So when someone comes up and says, oh geez, we just had our lawn all tore up and Ron had his driveway tore up with a water main installation or what have you, and now I can't get at my field, all right? It's just something that we'd like to know so that there's some kind of comfort level that we can give to not only our residents, but our agribusiness community as well. I mean, it's part and parcel. You know if you're gonna be doing this on this side or that side, based on it, okay? And that makes you a good neighbor, okay? So that we can respond to those questions when they come to the town board or what have you, and the next day they show up and there's a new pole in the middle of your access road you want to get in and till your property, or you're gonna have some high tension wires in front of your house that you walk out in the yard with your fluorescent bulbs, light up or lightsabers. So
Perhaps
it's a cheap beer again.
Start it.
Perhaps a condition of approval that they provide you with construction managers, name, contact information, phone number, email, that kind of thing.
Well, my question comes from notes that I had made quite a long time ago, and the answer that we got from the first guy that was here was when we get to the road, the National Grid just takes over.
And that's part of their application, that they're paying National Grid to make those improvements.
I get it, but the National Grid is a transportation corporation that, oh, by the way, has certain rights to use a municipal right of way. And the municipal head superintendent, whether it be a town, state, or county, has a right to revoke that if it impinges the rights of access to any people on that municipally owned highway. Okay, that's.
So we would want a statement from
Yeah, just
from the
a good neighbor. I
utility.
mean, when we did a Breckwork project, okay, you're right. Somebody to call.
Right,
Okay,
so,
when we
no,
went
no,
north-
you want to say, you look, whoever, it's Nagamog, you say a statement from them saying the existing structure, existing infrastructure will support, or it won't, and we need to do
the
1, 2, 3.
And we will be making personal contact.
Bingo.
That's all we're doing.
That's all.
We're being,
Hey, what if they had to add some heavy low hanging wires and block some field from a tall tractor going in?
Yeah, they're one of the big combines.
I don't get, so when we do these, we submit, I don't even submit the Caesar application, but I typically don't get details on the exact nature of the improvements they're making. Sometimes I'll get like what the number is that they need for the improvements.
but you might be able to find it out.
But I could get that information.
Easier than we are, because I've tried calling National Grid, it takes a week.
Yeah.
But no, it's just making you guys look better. There's some wetland concerns we might have had on this property. It's been flagged at one time, up in the top.
Yeah, I think we're referring to, I can turn it towards.
But they made changes from the 2018 plan to the 2019 plan.
Oh, really?
And
really?
you can see the road has dips to go around the wetland.
Yeah.
And also that little indentation is avoiding a wetland area. And they were, I don't want to say insignificant wetlands, but they weren't.
So
Most of them are isolated.
there'd be no disparaging comments from conservation
No,
board.
the conservation board looked at the site plan, they looked at aerial pictometry pictures, they looked at Google Earth pictures to see the whole thing. And they could see that changes had been made to avoid the wetland areas, and that was a good thing.
I've seen Army Corps approve putting the panels in the well.
Yeah.
If they're
If they're on driven posts.
If it's a healable footer or a driven post, they'll let you put them right in the well.
Really?
Yeah, there was a letter from.
Why is
it
that?
wasn't him,
Why is that?
Just because they're low value wetlands and the shading of them and the minimal disturbance doesn't.
They say it doesn't constitute a discharge of fill into a wetland since you're not like backfilling.
So the Army Corps did not have any issues.
How are they gonna make them stick if they're sticking them in the wetland?
So they'll drive down it, I suppose.
So they hit bedrock?
15 feet. What was it? The one that was here was 13 feet.
13 or 15 feet. sounds about
Before they go to
right.
construction too,
Oh, yeah.
a geotechnical consultant would look at the site and they do just an evaluation to see how deep they need to drive for the piles to make sure it's stable. And they're not gonna rip out in a big windstorm.
But in this case, you have actually moved things to avoid that.
Yeah, I think in the initial plan, I remember this edge of panels is actually much closer to the setback.
And I think it came straight down too.
Yeah.
Isn't that indentation?
Right.
As a wetland.
If there's wetlands, then how do they navigate to get down there to check those panels?
By boat.
But it's like
No, I mean, there's times when you have to go down through it and check, and
Put
if
your muck boots on.
it's wet in the spring or the fall, how you gonna get in there? They make a repair.
They're not, these aren't
Don't they?
significant, these are federal wetlands, these aren't the significant state wetlands. They're usually quite
You wouldn't
small.
see one in a marsh, a significant marsh,
Well, most of the year they're dry.
Yeah, they're just,
because they wouldn't want to give up nesting area and stuff like that. That would be the biggest thing.
And there were some wetlands
Or-
around Yankee Creek also
Or
that
that
farm
tree
it
fern
away.
or something. Do we have a tentative construction schedule?
I would say at this point, probably spring of 2021. I would be very surprised if they were able to mobilize before then.
That's why, did we have a motion to close the public hearing?
No one said anything, but yes, we tried to close.
I would
the
like a
hearing.
motion, somebody,
I'll make a
I'll make-
motion to close the public hearing.
okay, second, call the votes, please.
Linda DeRue,
Yes.
Dave Martin.
Yes.
Chris Snyder,
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Steve Law.
Yes.
Steve Whitman.
Yes.
Okay, this is a special use permit. So there should be conditions put on this from what we learned from the first one, okay? Cheryl, you had the opportunity with some other folks to walk the original solar facility that's under construction. And is there some recommendations for things that would make things easier for you and us to control this special use permit?
I went with
You
Janine Fox and Mark Fellerstein.
Okay?
It's a very pretty, simple installation and even a pretty simple working mechanism. So the only thing I would be concerned about is if the height of the grass was over 10 inches, we have to make sure that the property was secure all the time. Everything else is like beyond my control, except if some panels went down. I think you didn't mention, the other place mentioned, Rego mentioned that. They would not come down if one panel, is this true with you also? They would not come down if one panel was out, but if a whole string of panels out, they would come down and repair and replace.
I've been told that it's monitored 24/7, so if anything went wrong, they would come out to fix it. I've
For
not
anything.
for anything.
It's just different than the other system.
Wasn't there an issue, Cheryl, with, Borrego over, they had to get a variance for a fence, is that,
They do not have to agree on things.
the nicer
They
of,
did not.
they don't?
No.
So they won't.
And then neither did the compared to somebody else. They're not.
What, 7 feet?
Yeah. You have to look it up code.
That's why I wanted to make sure before,
Mm-hmm.
if he's got to go in front of the zoning board
Yeah.
or something
He
before.
does not. He's been
If there's anything you want done with the grass, though, we can put that as a condition, and I can update the O&M. I don't know.
Grass really, if we're going to keep it complementary to the entire town, grass cannot be taller than 10 inches.
Okay.
I'd like to see a statement or a plan for connecting utilities.
Need some information. Just
I'm gonna sit down.
acknowledge the people have a right to know.
Hey, you're talking, I mean, that's a big site, it's a lot of power.
Well, I'm just writing down some things, as I listen to you folks for some special conditions.
I can tell you the ones I've seen that have a problem is when construction is in wet period, where your expectation of soil disturbance and erosion is expected to be minimal. But if they're on the docket and it's March and it's muddy and messy, the entire site can get pretty messy. It's difficult to restore and get going again. And I know there's maintenance, I think there's a maintenance plan and there's, there's stormwater conditions like that.
But we can ask for a slip and adequate inspection.
Right, because did we have a full, did this require a full
We
sweep?
did a full sweep, yeah. There's stormwater treatment for the pads. I don't have it printed out with me, but I don't remember if the SWIP cited we were going to need a 5-acre waiver or not. But we can make that a condition that if the site's going to exceed 5 acres of disturbance, then the applicant would have to get a waiver from DEC, your state DEC, and it would require them to have 2 SWIP inspections per week rather than just 1.
They just can get a lot messier than you.
Yeah, we can put that note right on the plans too.
And then with that, you're tracking on the road and all the stuff that goes wrong with stormwater pollution. And for neighbors like this guy that doesn't want silt and everything running down in the off the property that the appropriate road control are on.
All topsoil and road stripping material has to be contained on site.
In fact, it's not allowed to be. The idea is to keep the soils there.
Yeah, we're not removing any topsoil from the site, so anything that's like temporarily stockpiled would be like balanced on the site someplace and stabilized.
Well, as part of your SWIP, any disturbed area and everything has to have a planning and topsoil pile.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And it has to be done fairly immediately so we don't have dark time and everything. So that's part of your SWIP anywhere, anyways?
That's all in the SWIP, yes.
Okay.
The only thing we can make sure we have that specific 5-acre waiver language in there too. I think that'd be a good addition.
I'm just voicing it out loud. You're gonna need a planning schedule, and I'd rather have what barrier screening planning's done sooner than later.
Okay.
If you're in the proper part of the year for planting a tree, which is usually in the fall, okay?
Mhm.
But your landscape plan is gonna need a good schedule based on recommendations. And I'd like a value added to that for your landscaping
Mhm.
to be, put in a letter of credit
Okay.
with the town. And prior to that, getting started. So, everybody knows, I'm gonna make a motion, I'm gonna add some things to it, all right? And, we got 6 items so far. Is there anything else that JP you had to deal with?
In the initial phases, it's making sure the fencing's right. You know, we've had where gates were omitted because, you know, we asked for a gate, a man gate in case they had to get someone out way back in the corner or something like that. But a lot of times the fencing, you know, the ground goes like that, but the bottom of the fence is like that, so you got gaps and stuff in the fence. But that's all stuff, you know, that should be before the town gives the final C of O on things.
Mhm.
You know, good inspection is done. That should be normal practice anyway. Right? Those are, once they want to be commissioned, they want to be commissioned. You know, and start recouping. Yeah, a good inspection prior to giving that final sign off is important. You know, because that's when the plantings are going to be right, and the fencing has to be right. And the erosion sediment control and plant, you know.
So there'll be no final C of O until it's final. So they might operate on a temporary or conditional C of O.
Yeah, if you can, you know, it's time.
Based on an inspection
I would also myself, I would say, I would ask Jimmy to come along with me, and I would ask my fellow
oh,
side again.
absolutely, it would be
Many eyes,
more than a bipartisan
if they're willing.
inspection.
But this is not, well, like for Borrego, it's not going to happen until spring.
On your original plan, we didn't see any staging areas. You do have a dip, a bridge, some sight distance areas. You're gonna have to stage off-road for equipment and materials.
So we have a staging area, right at the bottom of the plan here.
Okay, but I could see when you're building that road,
Mhm.
trucks parked out on the road because they can't get in there. Okay, so you're gonna have to need some kind of temporary stage right off the road edge so that you have equipment vehicles and stuff that aren't sitting on the road waiting for someone to come over a rise, all right, or somebody trying to get by it with a big plow setup or any other type of ag rig. Okay.
Okay.
And that might be something that comes up as part of your highway permit. But I want it noted in special conditions so that the town doesn't have any liability.
Yeah, I didn't see any comment, from the Monroe County on the staging area at that close to the road. I agree, it makes sense, we can add that to the plans.
It's temporary, I don't want tractor trailers or 10-wheelers or triaxles sitting out on the road waiting.
And we also have that comment on the site plans too, for what it's worth, it says no loading or unloading of trucks is permitted within the Redmond Road right of way during construction, so we're right. It's right on the plans too.
We can enforce it if it's, okay.
Yep.
Okay. 7 Second item. Letter of existing infrastructure adequateness by National Grid. With contact info if needed, if there's gonna be changes. Okay. Planning schedule, landscape plan, and a letter of credit with the town. Okay, that would be adequate enough to make sure that the planning's going. Okay?
Yep.
And, authorization of payments will come through, code enforcement and probably some other participation, maybe from conservation board. Okay. Also, there needs to be a guarantee of the plannings through the life of the project.
Okay. We typically have that in the O and M, that they're looked at annually, and any other dying plants replaced, I'll make sure that language is in there.
If somebody ends up selling this off to some other people or another leasing, if plannings fail or there's some other type of maintenance needs to happen, it doesn't happen, then, special use permit can be used as a hammer to make sure it gets done. Sometimes you gotta put a little brake in things. Highway permit before starting construction, copies, insurance and liabilities, I don't think it'd be a whole harmless, but if there's a highway permit, I don't want any responsibility other than what we itemized, and the town probably wouldn't be added on a bond for, so we don't have any liability because we approved the project on a county road.
I don't see,
Any insurance,
I don't see that as an issue.
okay. Erosion control plan, needs to address, disturbance of over 5 acres or more in excess, in case you have a very wet spring or what have you. And who's gonna determine that it's more than 5 acres, you, JP? Thank you. Yeah.
How about pre-screening of Cannon's property?
Or what?
Pre-screening of Cannon's property prior to construction.
They don't own it anymore.
They don't own, who owns it?
No, Joe Brightly owns it.
So does he need to have additional screening?
I just wondered if,
Because a whole hedgerow that comes down through there, but then,
right, because they showed on the plan to be screening around that land, the front.
in the front.
And that's where the main work's gonna be done to initially.
And we've done this on, applications in the past where we could just, adjust the construction schedule to put the screening in first and just have them protect it, and anything that gets damaged during construction would have to be replaced anyways. We don't know, so. Probably the best way to handle it.
No topsoil removal?
Nope.
From site? Temporary CFOs and final CFOs will be based on a multi-level inspection. Okay. And off-road staging of construction vehicles to be used, so we don't put nothing parked on the road edge. There's site distance issues and pre-screening. To be used earlier in the schedule if needed, based on observations by a code enforcement officer. Anybody else think of anything else that's in special conditions? JP?
Decommissioning bond, I'm sure that's in place.
Decommissioning bond needs to be in place. And you'll get okay of that through town board, because it'll have to be presented to the town,
Okay.
okay? Improvable. Keith?
I'm good.
Okay. Property value. To be worked out with assessor. Prior to construction site. So that we know. Prior to construction site. Okay. We made a seeker on this.
We did the first round, now we have to button it up.
Okay.
And I have a motion I can read off if someone is interested in making the motion.
Okay. Should I make the special conditions on the end of that?
Yeah, the seeker comes first, then we do the permit and with conditions.
Okay, I'd like somebody on the board to pay attention to his recommendation for the seeker, final seeker for the Helios project on 90 Ribbon Road.
And it goes something like this. Whereas notice of the planning board's intent to become lead agency was issued to the other involved agencies and no involved agency has objected. Whereas the planning board, upon its review of the record, the testimony, and having completed its review of the long form EAF, has taken the requisite hard look at the proposed action. Now therefore be it resolved that 1, the planning board approves and adopts its portion of the EAF, and 2, the planning board finds that the action as described in the EAF will not have a significant adverse effect on the environment and adopts a negative declaration, and an environmental impact statement need not be prepared in connection with such proposed action. Does anyone make that motion?
I'll make that motion. I gotta read this again.
No, we're good.
Yeah, read it again, Linda.
We just, all we need to do is keep track
Hmm.
on that form of that motion and how you voted. And who voted what. If everybody says aye, you just put the listing down on that. Does it need to be signed by myself?
No.
Okay. All right, so Linda's made the motion. Who made the second?
Steve.
Okay. All right, poll the votes.
Linda Drew,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Abstain.
Chris Schleider,
Yes.
Keith Nesbitt,
Yes.
Steve Ross,
Yes.
Steve Whitman.
Yes.
Okay, final approval. Okay. Of Helios Energy New York LLC for the facility at 980 Redmond Road will have the following special conditions. And I just wrote briefly on the back of this, you can have it.
Thank you.
Okay, prior to construction begins, and concurrent with the construction of this facility, a letter of existing infrastructure adequateness by National Grid be provided to the town, as well as contact people if there needs to be any changes. Number 2, planning schedule and landscape plan together with a guarantee and a letter of credit be provided for said plantings to the town of Hamlin to cover the cost of this, and payment will be made based on draws approved through code compliance. All the highway permit issues and a copy of the highway permit from Monroe County DOT be provided as part of the package that is approvable for construction start. The erosion control plan, if it becomes in excess of 5 acres of disturbance due to a wet construction season, will be determined by the town engineer and a new plan be put in place. There'll be no topsoil removed from the plan, it will be stockpiled in site per plan approval and adequately seeded so that there's no erosion of the pile. Any temporary and final C of Os will be based on a multi-level inspection by the staff of the town. Number 7, there'll be all staging of construction vehicles and materials to be off-road in the staging area, pre-staging area, excuse me, until what time adequate road has been built. Pre-screening should be used in conjunction with a schedule that meets the criteria for screening with the adjoining neighbors. Okay, the decommissioning bond shall be in place and approved by the town board prior to start of construction. Okay, and property value to be worked out with the assessor prior to construction starting. These special conditions shall be added to the permit. That is a motion. Second.
Linda Rue,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Steve.
Chris Snyder,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yeah.
Steve Hittner.
Yes.
Very good. Still have some homework.
Alright,
It's been a long haul.
yeah, I appreciate everybody's help with the process. That wasn't easy.
Okay, do we have anything for the town board?
Just that sewer district has been formed and, we're taking interviews with a tax assessor. Hopefully here this next couple months, we'll finalize that.
I don't have anything.
JP.
Plugging along on the sewer district, the surveyors and survey work is going on. We got people out there field editing, somebody been seeing them on there around. So that's moving, the survey's moving along. We're going on the design on the sewer pretty shortly.
You know about crossing Sandy Creek yet?
Well, they didn't want us to do it up by the yacht club, they wanted us to do it closer to the bridge. That was just a verbal comment, so we gotta look into that. We even discussed attaching it to the bridge.
Well, you know that boat ramp that's there during high water doesn't work, so it'd be an excellent cooperative thing to raise the pad if needed and change the construction. Okay, if that could be coordinated.
We'll see where the DEC lets us put our pipes in those areas. It's
One by my house, one down the driveway.
Want a pump while we're at it?
Yeah, sure.
And run it over under Steve's house.
You want to pump it?
So that's moving along. Other than that, Redwood Boats is about wrapped up. I guess they had some trouble with some leaks and some bad samples, but I think Steve Bowes has passed that, so that should be pretty well up and running.
Okay, how about the combined water line?
That's tied in across the whole way, across from Sweetwater all the way to the town line. And I think they've been pressure testing and getting that up a little bit. So,
I got involved briefly in the inspection there for a couple of weeks now. Somebody went on vacation. I don't like those Ford saddles.
They've never had trouble with them in the past, but that's how it goes. Change
There was a few leaks.
Yeah.
And you know the lead content has changed.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's soft as they used to be.
Right, so,
Yep, but that's it for the engineering stuff.
okay.
I have nothing to add.
Are you satisfied? Basically, the way the meeting went and where we are going.
Okay. Sorry? I'm satisfied. Thank you for that.
It's taken a while, but we're trying to get Patty trip, you know. So, you've been a big help.
We got customers.
I have one thing to add, and I can't remember, but it seemed to me when we were getting conservation development permits, we always said to expire within 1 year of the date of issuance. And I don't know whether that needs to be mentioned during the meeting or just when Cheryl gives out the permit.
That's a good point, she gets.
Is it on the permit? Like the
There's
expiration?
expiration date on the permit, yes.
So that doesn't need to be brought up at the meeting.
Maybe just to make people aware of it.
Because we did that at one time and then stopped doing it.
We can do that. Maybe you can remind everybody when we call.
I can do that.
Then you,
Like this.
there you go. Then you would have something to say.
Maybe we can get you a bell.
Well, sometimes she has to get my attention, you know. Yeah, Chrissy, or Cheryl,
All set.
good. Anybody on the board? Anything to say?
How's that conservation, farmland production coming along?
I gotta reach out to Bob King again, and now I kinda, once fall gets here, maybe we can get back into it again, once after the fall. When people have more time.
When the snow's flying?
Yeah.
Well, the LWRP isn't going anywhere with it.
Not with the Department of State. Well, they are noticed, and I'm sure we'll be a little more diligent, but there are a lot of municipalities where they put up the solar farms that they're screening. It's horrible. You know, I mean, the trees are all dead, or they didn't plant them, or you go through Ogden, a couple of them there, they're gross.
We'll be on them.
Yeah, they're
We got
gross.
the fence around Laredo now, so they've got that there. Fencing.
Wait till they lose their state subsidies.
Okay, do we need an adjournment?
What's the name?
All in flavor?
Just a second, Steve Law.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, everyone, all in favor? Okay.
JP, you wanna stay overnight in my house?
I'm a little sleepy.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a couple of beers, eat a little pizza or something.
We really sleep.
Well, I won't be driving.
You're just gonna have to call around and tell her.
Did I or did I not tell you to bring your sleeping bag? Yes, I did.
There we go.
I don't.
All right, well, good night, everybody.
Good night.
We were trying to get that missing at the food board and, Pittsburgh, I was talking about just some more.
Well, I know.
Town board meeting in Pittsburgh, then I heard my building board meeting front page.
Hey, if you're in the other house, we could put them up.
They started at
Well,
6.
that's true too.
We got a lot going on.
I don't know.
Oh, geez.
You know,
Every year, every
I
month.
do miss that already.
Yeah, you got a bed board there,
So does the charter.
It needs to be that longer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now,
You got him with it.
that's,
Okay.
Well, mental health day.
I mean, mine too.
I'm 75.
now,
Well, now what now too?
yeah,
Well,
now,
I have
it's,
to
you know,
take him
there's,
on a little
it's a question.
we're going up to Clayton.
Oh, nice.
I'd love to.
Shelley Woods had her surgery tonight.
If we get
Michelle. How we help users, like across the road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. she had across the road today.
You mean
Okay.
the daughter?
Michelle.
Just a question.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you. Have a good night.
And Pamela kinda, Pamela's like her mother since Mary passed away. And we had actually, sometimes it's sort of funny because they talk on the phone for hours. Whose truck was it? No, they found that, said we had to be there, we had to do some form. And so anyways, we had scheduled to go, she had surgery today, she's there in the hospital.
That's all set up with
Well, just to come out of our
And we're gonna call
car.
Thursday
Yeah.
morning. and see, I was first coming to our house for a couple days. Cause she, with her two boys and everything's going on, she says, can I use your couch? You can do, yeah, you know, you can do anything you want, you know, and, so we're gonna call, and if,
Took me half an hour and wouldn't.
if she's all right, we'll probably Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
See that we're digging all that out.
Yeah, good for you.
They get away, stop buying
I
cars.
would say that, I mean, that was point of
Tell me about it.
we did get the port.
Well, the guys who were doing it were, who that does the forming.
I knew it was gonna be a long meeting.
And then you've got the local three
It
masons.
was a long one for sure.
It's really good.
Mhm.
I mean, the guys who
They
they pitch right in to help.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. it was.
Now, Chris, if we go back 20 years or so, I think of Dean and Jim Verslowski, and the motions used to be a lot easier. We never had to give the tax account numbers because the clerk pretty much knew them and things like that. And I wonder if the dust settles and we get, where we don't have anything going some night, if we couldn't review that and see if we can't. We used to do the,
Well, Keith says we shouldn't have to do all that stuff. It's all
Yeah.
part of the application. Yeah, and I can remember when we went back 20-some years ago with the town attorney, we were told to say, based on the information provided tonight, at this meeting tonight, that's all, meaning everybody that gave this information, and that information's on your
Yeah.
agenda, we can do this, that, and that, and all you do is
Yeah.
give the address.
but you know, if we get it, some night where we haven't got anything on the agenda and got a little time for a little work session, I'd like to review some of that. Here they have to go to auctioneer school. Oh, man. Good thing the Yankees ain't doing good.
Seems like we have more people there than that.
All right, well, sleep tight.
I was asked today to talk to you about a fundraiser. You should have gone on the West Coast. I'm just going in. I heard it was done with it going on the West Coast.
Electric company. The electric company, oh, you turned those off for me already?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Curtis Golderman already has a huge firm in his backyard. And he has always said to me, his wife and people said to me, that they were going to, hang on.
I don't know.